Hey, so welcome to doubling down on in response to COVID. D- My name is Paul DeCamps. I'm the marketing director for Nice Shoes. I'm here to introduce you to the leaders of our film and episodic VFX team, Break and Enter. Joyce Boll is our executive producer with deep roots in the New York Post scene, even though she's from Jersey, with global experience having launched studios on 5 continents. Joyce has worked major titles including Black Swan, Limitless, Captain America, Moonrise Kingdom, and Little Women, just to name a few. If you look at her IMDb, it is crazy full of really great credits. Uh, and a few of the shows she's worked on have been Nosferatu for AMC, Gotham for Fox, and Mrs. Fletcher for HBO, and Outer Banks for Netflix. Dave Zeevalk is our creative director. He's established complex VF pipelines, workflows, has a really great knowledge of remote and the cloud. He's worked with Look Effects, Alchemy X, and he's always strove to provide mentorship and guidance to junior talent. Some of his credits are NBC's Blind Spot, AMC's Fear the Walking Dead, Netflix's Maniac, and the Emmy Award-winning Amazon Prime series, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. He's also worked on features such as Life of Pi, Moonrise Kingdom, and The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Thanks so much to Autodesk for inviting us to be a part of Vision Series. We know we're in great company, and we're here today to help tell the story of how our team to get together at the right time, right place, right pandemic to create a nimble boutique VFX studio that can really quickly respond to the needs of filmmakers and showrunners, no matter where they are, no matter where our team is. So that's really enough for me. I'm going to get going with Joyce and Dave and let them tell our story. So, Joyce, you've been working remotely for nearly your entire career in some form. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, so working overseas, I'm working remotely for sure, and I've gotten a chance to work with different groups in different forms. But at the end of the day, when it comes to project managing from a remote point of view, that is an area that I've created a whole career doing. Um, One example that I like to point out is like over the last 5 years. I've been working when my daughter was born. I actually I moved my office into my home, and I ran studios with crew in Serbia, in Hungary, in sort of a hybrid, and successfully put together animated series and films that are now, some of them are on Netflix.
Great. And Dave, what's your experience been working remote over the years?
So my experience is a little different than Joyce's, coming from the artist side. I've had experience working at facilities in Los Angeles and in New York, um, where I'm actually remote connecting to other facilities within the company, other locations. So having experienced what it feels like to work with a remote workstation in Los Angeles from New York. Um, but more in demand, if we have somebody that's out of town that needs to remote connect for a short period of time. um, we've experienced building workflows to allow for that, and additionally building out cloud-based rendering solutions that are proprietary to the companies that I've worked at. So a lot of that has led to a lot of research and a lot of kind of experimentation with what it looks like to build a fully remote facility, and that's a big part of what's led me here with Nice Shoes and Break and Enter. Take that experience and help really develop an entire arm of the company, and eventually a whole company, moving to this type of remote workflow.
Um, yeah, so I think starting with Joyce, what would you say has made it possible from a tech standpoint, for this to happen now, for a studio like Break+Enter to form and really stand out from others?
It's interesting. About over 15 years ago, I was at a studio working with a CTO that was talking about cloud-based infrastructure. We'd just migrated our systems onto being Linux-based, and we're talking about cloud for a long time. And I said to them that I had to pass on it. I felt that there wasn't the right technology to support the project management aspects of that infrastructure of what they were trying to achieve. I bet the people who initiated that endeavor are probably just dying, because now with Slack and with all the different tools that we do have, Zoom and right now, the format that we're on right now is proof in the pudding that we now have all of the infrastructure in place to make this successful. We're not missing a beat with being able to communicate to our teams wherever they're located, to be able to keep in real time and address real issues, and even have our artists and our clients being able to look at shots and be able to immediately make changes as needed. And that couldn't happen 5 years ago even.
So really bringing together a lot of the tools that have been available out there has really helped you from a project management standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, artists, may have been able to work remotely, but if they're not being managed, if the schedules and the budgets can't be, overseen by by the right supportive project management tools, there's too many areas for error, and that's closed over the last year.
And Dave, what would you say the tech has been that's been supporting you as, you were both exploring this pre-pandemic, and that's helped us kind of make the transition successfully?
Yeah, I mean, there, as we all know, there's a ton of new technology that's come out in the last decade and really gotten very strong to support this type of endeavor. Some of the most obvious is some of our partners that we're actively working with, AWS, who have exploded in this area and really put a huge emphasis on media and entertainment. They have a huge initiative towards our industry and how to support our industry. They've been a major advocate for us and partner in helping us develop what we have developed and what we continue to develop. Having solutions like Teradici PC over IP for really strong video streaming, knowing that resolutions that we're working at are continuously expanding based on client demand. PC over IP and Teradici have continued to develop and give us giving us solutions that can support the types of resolution that we need to be able to work with. And then more from the project management standpoint, having tools in place like Shotgun, F-Track, Slack for communication. These tools enable us to help better manage projects, no matter where people are, whether you're in-house or you're out of house. They really help us keep a good tab on what's happening real time, and give us good communication tools, which is, for me, and I think Joyce would agree, is the key to managing people remotely. We need really good access to smooth communication. So there's a ton of technology that's out now, a lot of different solutions that have supported this, and certainly this whole situation that we're all in with COVID, I'm sure has put a lot of emphasis on further demand and need for more development for other tools, or for the tools that we have at hand now to be refined. So I think we're there, and it's only going to get better at this point as more companies dive deeper into this type of workflow.
And you've both had experience in the past. Have you ever met serious opposition, either prior to everybody going remote or even as we were starting to get going remote, from either clients or coworkers or peers?
I got to tell you, at other studios, over the years, yes, for sure, no doubt about it. There's this is tried and true. This is how it's always been done. And one of the draws of coming to this company was the initial conversations with ownership, with the management, saying, they wanted to find ways to make visual effects specifically, but overall the industry, finding business models that could be more efficient, that could be more cost efficient, and also more profitable. And visual effects, as we all know, is notoriously hard to be profitable in, and that was always intriguing to me, especially because I know from my experience working in remotely with animation and with visual effects, that when you are working more remotely, you have less of an overhead, and so it can be more profitable. So that was a draw prior to any idea of having a pandemic occur. So we were lucky, we were in the right place at the right time with the right company. And I remember when it was actually a few months before the pandemic, cloud-based building out a proprietary technology. And I said, you know what? I worked with Dave Zeevalk before, and he was on my mind. I didn't think that there would be this opportunity. And when we talked and he was really into it, the timing just was, you couldn't script it better, and he came aboard just in time.
And how about you, Dave? What roadblocks have you encountered with remote over the years?
Yeah, so there's been certainly a handful. One that I would say is probably the biggest is security. That's always, kind of at the forefront of our mind when we're building pipeline and infrastructure for VFX. We're dealing with, IP from our clients that they're trusting us with, and how do we deploy a remote team and ensure that we're upholding our end of the deal and keeping their data secure, following their security protocols. But I think the right pieces are in place now from a technology standpoint to allow for remote workflow that keeps this secure data locked down. It really isn't an issue like it's been in the past. We have an avenue to take in the cloud that using things again like teradata PC over IP that is keeping our data secure and only streaming a video back to the artists. That's really one of the biggest things is network security. But aside from that, VFX it's not a cheap business to get into, and there's a lot. Companies are investing a lot of money in building out pipeline, building out infrastructure. And once you've invested in that, you have this physical infrastructure in place. It's very hard to swallow, like reinvesting in doing this all over again. And I think COVID hit at a time where it became obvious to people that it's a worthy investment. It's something that needs to happen. The nice thing is, with me joining Nice Shoes and Break+Enter is, we're Break+Enter. We're starting from scratch. So, there isn't a prior investment in physical infrastructure. So we can put all of our focus on a cloud architecture and a cloud pipeline, which is awesome. And this is something that Nice Shoes as a company has seen value in the past. They have put an effort into developing remote cloud workflows for other areas of the business in the past. So for me, coming on board with these guys was a huge draw because they already had a head for it. They understood where the value was. And so they weren't really hitting, I don't think, the same stumbling blocks that some other companies were. A lot of it is a mentality, getting past the mentality of how things ran before, and looking more into the future and how things should be moving with the technology at hand.
And how would you say this ultimately is benefiting the client right now?
We've done a lot of talking about this, and it's just like we happen to bring to the table some really unique skills and experiences because I've worked, all over the world, one-on-one with a lot of artists. They're vetted. So Dave once was in a conversation with me, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and said something like, "We're location agnostic now." It really has great meaning in terms of if we have a client and they're working in any part of the world, Costa Rica or Argentina, or if they're in like Singapore, if they're in anywhere, Asia or any place, I can say, yeah, you know what? I have people that I've actually worked with on a project that has been fully vetted that I can recommend to be part of our team, that we can build a team for you anywhere on this planet. We are everywhere on the globe when it comes to visual effects. We're here, and we know the people that we're bringing in to work on your projects.
Yeah. The infrastructure that we have in place really is, it's not bound to a location at all. And it's, as most people know, with a cloud workflow, it is extremely scalable. We can very, very quickly expand and contract as needed. And we really can be anywhere in the world. So, with Joyce and my contacts in different areas of the world and in the country, we truly can build a team and deploy them within our own infrastructure, without having to, go to Nice Shoes and say, hey, let's invest in another building in Atlanta to take advantage of that tax credit. We can launch a team in Atlanta tomorrow and start a job up, let our clients take advantage of those tax incentives. And then, we can collapse it if we need to. We can collapse that infrastructure down, if there's no longer a demand there. So it really gives us so much reach, in where we can deploy teams. And, I think there's really something to be said for, a client that we've worked with, that's comfortable with us, that it has an expectation of the quality level of what they're going to get when working with us, and also the experience of working with us. And for us to be able to offer that to them anywhere, that you're going to get that same experience, whether it's working with a New York team or working with a Los Angeles team. I think there's a lot to be said about that, and it really gives us a lot of opportunity to serve our clients anywhere in the world.
It also makes us fiscally. It also makes us very fiscally powerful, very stable, because we could collapse and we can expand as needed without worrying about, I'm going to have to get out of a lease, in Lisbon,
Yeah, our infrastructure is all real time. We can launch our infrastructure, in half a day. We can have hundreds of machines up and running, artists connecting, render capacity that's nearly unlimited thanks to AWS, data centers that are literally everywhere. So it's really amazing what it offers us, in terms of expansion and contraction. And it's not something you'll never get that kind of fluidity or that elasticity with physical infrastructure. It's impossible. Ramp up takes a long time. When you're starting a new branch, when you need to quickly expand for a project, it's a huge financial investment. It takes a lot of time and a lot of planning, and to be able to get around a lot of that is amazing. I've dealt with some gnarly situations, being in New York with lack of electrical draw to the building that we're in, that forces us to not be able to expand, and to throw that out the window and not have to think about that in New York anymore is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Not to say overseas, it's, your governments.
Yeah.
How about how this has affected the build out of the kind of core team, and some of what you've been able to do in terms of who you've been able to engage right now? You're cutting out a bit, Joyce.
I'm going to jump in there. Joyce is cutting out. It is. Listen, this has offered us so much flexibility with the talent that we have access to now, which is for anybody. That is the core of the business that we're in. We're only as good as the team that we can build. And for us to be able to reach out now anywhere in the world and tap into the best talent, gives us a huge one up on our competition, frankly. We currently our head of pipeline is from Brazil. He travels between Brazil and the United States. He's also our cloud architect. We have one of our pipeline TDs that lives in Brazil that we work with daily seamlessly. It just proves that we really can reach out anywhere in the world to capture the best talent that suits our business model and our clients for each project. Obviously there's tax incentives that we have to adhere to, which is fine. But being able to have the flexibility to get the right people for the job is really huge. I particularly like that. That there's certain specialties in what we do, and I want to be able to put in front of our clients somebody that is the best, digital map painter, for example. And it may be somebody that's in Los Angeles, but we can mix them right into our pipeline, right into our infrastructure very seamlessly, very easily, rather than maybe going with some of the people that we would normally work with locally, having access to the other talent outside. Again, it gives us such an advantage with our clients, and for us,
it's not just on our talent side, but it's also opens our whole world in terms of our clientele, because we are now we have clients that are shooting in different countries that feel more comfortable today, post COVID, post lockdown, that are now comfortable giving us work and taking on projects. And we had a project with people from our Toronto office that we were able to put together a crew in Argentina and put them on. And there are clients that we know that have tax incentives in Stuttgart, in Germany, or in other countries. And so maybe they don't want the tax incentive here in New York. Maybe they have a tax incentive in another country. We can tap into that. That's part of the beauty of this.
Right. And again, giving them the opportunity to work with a company that they're familiar with, that they trust, they know the quality that they can expect, and the fluidity of the flow of the project. No matter where we are in the world, we still have our same management team that the team's going to work under. So the clients can rest assured that they're going to get the same quality, and again, the same just fluidity to the project that they would if they were working with us in New York locally.
And how do you see this all continuing to evolve, both for Break+Enter and industry-wide?
Well, I think that it's brought I think we're going to end up segueing from where we are now. Hopefully, we'll get to the other end and we get out of this situation. We're looking at a hybrid. And I think that we'll be looking at ways that people will have more choices internally as employees on how they work. Do they prefer, people are now evaluating, wow, I used to work this way, but, I like working at home. And there are other people that I've tried this and I really want to be in an office. I think there's going to be more of a hybrid when we come out of it the other end. But there is no going back. And there's some beauty in that. And either way, Break+Enter we're poised for supporting that.
What about you, Dave?
Sorry. Can you give me the question again? I apologize.
What kind of opportunities do you see for this evolving? Do you kind of agree with Joyce as far as the hybrid? Is there something further you see for it, or?
No, absolutely. I definitely think, I think there's always going to be a piece of post-production in general and visual effects specifically that's going to be looking at more of a hybrid approach. There's going to be certain circumstances where we may want to have, a team, either close together or potentially on premise, specifically when it comes to our interaction with clients. We want them to be able to have the opportunity to meet with us face to face, to do in-person reviews or meetings. So there's always going to be a need for some level of hybrid approach. I don't think that negates the importance of cloud infrastructure. That's
right.
That is obviously for us that is our backbone. But there's always going to be a need though to have people together at some point. The technology is just going to continue to evolve. So this I think I would personally say we are in such early days.
Right.
Of this type of remote workflow, this type of cloud architecture. We're so early on, and there's a lot for us to learn. And for me to see where we're already at Break+Enter alone, where we are at with our small boutique team, it's the sky's the limit. We have partners like I mentioned earlier, AWS, they are behind us rooting us on, supporting us, giving us, just giving us the tools that we need, and the interaction with their teams internally to help push this.
But we're
I
putting up
think,
questions to them that we're making
yeah,
them think out of the box, and that's
exactly.
exciting.
For
It's a
sure.
very exciting time.
Yeah.
To
This is
be able.
not this isn't like a closed box. It's something that's been solved. I don't think anyone has this fully solved, and I don't know that they ever will. I think this is something that's going to forever evolve, as technology tends to do. It's going to continue to evolve and get better and better. So I'm really excited. And again, joining a company like this, where this is their mission, this is the vision of where they're going. For me, it just opens up, it paves the road for us to be able to continue to, continue to push the limits on what's available to us, continue to, push the limits of our partners and what they're able to offer us. It's really exciting, and it's going to keep evolving.
I think our workspaces are going to look different, and there may be internationally, we may have these more breakdown, breakup, sort of almost like a set up a tent, have and leases will look different. It's going to change the model of brick and mortar rentals, I think, in terms of workspaces.
Yeah.
That's
the concept of a pop-up shop. Now it's we see it with restaurants and bars. We can do that. That is a real thing now for VFX too, with the technology that's out there, with the infrastructure built the right way. We can pop up, for a month. We can set up a team to work under our infrastructure with very, very, very little setup time. We can deploy a team in a rental space
or screening places.
Exactly. Yep.
There's going to be so there'll be different kinds of vendors that you're going to be seeing, different resources to support the way the business is definitely going to be evolving. It's just a very exciting time to be in this industry. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, sure.
And before we get into the Q&A, what would you say you've each learned from going to fully remote during this pandemic?
I need a nanny.
Yeah, certainly everyone working from home, everybody, we all know it certainly comes with its challenges, but it's also comes with huge benefits, some that we've talked about already. Yeah. But others being, work-life balance. It really affords us the opportunity to give our team a better work-life balance. Every city is different, but us being local to New York, it's with the commute and that lifestyle, it's it weighs heavy on your personal life, and being able to give people a little bit more flexibility in how they work, I think is huge. And because of that, we have seen, and we have data to prove that people are more efficient. We are seeing people are working more efficiently when they're home. They're getting through their tasks quicker. And I think a lot of it comes down to, at the end of the day, I think there's two parts of it. One is, I'm not spending 2 hours of my day commuting anymore, which means if I need to invest a little bit more time in what I'm doing at work every day, I have 2 more hours that I can easily put into it without feeling like I've taken anything away from my personal life. Right. But also, I think there's something to be said too about, being able to sit down and get to work and know that I don't have this big, long, exhausting commute or this, to look into at the end of it. So I'm going to sit down, I'm going to work, I'm going to get through all of my tasks and be able to click and step out into my personal life and immediately now have this personal time. It's huge. And, it's not to take away our focus is to create amazing visual effects for our clients, to help them tell their stories in the best way possible. So it's not to take away from any of that. It's actually to empower our people to have the energy and the focus and the motivation to be in it when they're in it. When they're here, we want them fully in it and excited about what they're doing, and giving them some flexibility with their personal life enables them to be fully engaged when they're at work. And that's huge for us. It's huge.
But playing on that, it's interesting is that initially there was a lot of talk about losing that sense of camaraderie by being within, being physically at the office. And yet the truth is that and this is part, like, this goes into having the right tools for project management and being able to, like, Zoom calls or do Google Chats or even on Slack and use cameras and make people put their cameras on. And I've told you this already before, Paul. It was like my way of taking the temperature of my crew. Specifically, especially during early parts of COVID, when people were really frightened, and being able to, like, look into their eyes and be able to see, how anxious are they, and kind of know how to put in, how to have them move, like what shots to give who and why, and, or after the meeting, call someone up and, like, have a one-on-one. So it brought the personal really, front and center. And I think that it really created as strong a bond as when you're sitting in the office together. So it's different, it's challenging, it takes a different kind of energy, but I do think that we are achieving, and that's very important to Dave and I. It was one of the reasons I wanted to work with Dave again. It's because we both really value our crew, and it's not just about the work. We understand when you have a happy when people are happy, they're more productive, and they enjoy being at the office, and they enjoy what their skills are. They enjoy doing them, more when they're happy. So it's important to
sure.
both of us.
Yeah, this always, I think this in the back of my head, as much as I've been a proponent of remote work for a long time, it always had been the thing in the back of my head that was like, how do we get past some of, like, what I kind of call, like, break room banter? Like that to me is the thing that, like, connects people and gets people the camaraderie that you want and you need within a team. So, COVID kind of forced me to say, like, okay, well, it's just a matter of adapting. It's a mental roadblock that we have to get past. And it's not about saying, oh, we can't do this. No, how do we do it? This is something that's important to the culture of our company and what we're doing. And we have no choice but to figure this out. And as Joyce said, it's like, being able to do, video chats throughout the day and collaborating with people where you're seeing their face, you can take their temperature. You can see how they're feeling that day. It just opens up a much better, like, line of communication than just chat or email. So we spend a lot of time on video chats throughout the day, with management, with artists.
Right.
We want them to know that we're here. We're not just, a text bot coming back to you. We're people that are here that really care about you and want to make sure you feel supported. You have what you need to do your job successfully. Yeah.
We've got some great questions, but if anybody wants to add more, we can still fit them in. I'm going to start with what prompted the decision to envision a cloud-based pipeline, and what benefits have you found with it?
Well, it's interesting is that, so I think I touched on it a little earlier, is like years ago, I had a CTO that I brought aboard for Virgin, and he was all talking about cloud, and I didn't even know what that meant at that time, but over the years, it seemed to make more and more sense in terms of, supporting a remote platform. And as January, February came along, there was an opportunity for us to rebuild our pipeline internally over Break+Enter. And I'd been speaking to different people and entertaining different crews to come in. And I had in tandem been speaking to Dave. And it was just such a great opportunity to be able to. I knew his vision. I knew his capabilities. I had seen it. The proof was in. What he had done over at Alchemy X, and it just was the right time. And then Dave said yes and came aboard, and he had the right people. He brought them with him, and it just worked out timing wise.
I did want to just jump in and say that. I mean, obviously we're a team, and the team that we have, again, we are a small boutique, but we are working with the best people in the world right now. I mean, it is amazing. Our head of pipeline and cloud architect. What's that?
Literally. And
yeah, literally.
Some of the people I was talking to were located on different continents, and the fact that the people that we do have, they are literally, I think, the best in the world.
Yeah. Our cloud architect and head of pipeline is, I mean, I've worked with him in the past. He's hands down, one of the smartest people I've ever worked with, and has so much experience with cloud architecture. And it is mind blowing, some of the stuff that he's been able to develop for us at Break+Enter. and just really interesting. Really interesting and like engaging conversations for us to be able to have with AWS to also help them push their end forward to allow us to push forward. We are working with some really, really amazing people. So it's I'm very excited to have come on board, but it's not just me. I mean, we have a team of really smart people that are backing all of this up and really are making it happen in the back end. So I had to call that out.
And of course, we got a question about what Autodesk products we're using in our pipeline.
Sure. So our primary 3D package is Maya. So we are working with Maya, rendering Arnold primarily. Our company as a whole, we have other departments within the company that work with Flame. We dabble with 3D Studio Max. I'm trying to think what else. I think those are the primaries.
If we're talking about working internationally and working remotely, because Autodesk is universally the accepted tools, like globally, that is crucial to our capability of being, everywhere in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And for us, even aside from their individual packages, with this initiative that we're working with, with the concept of like expansion and contraction, Autodesk and where they've moved with like even their licensing structures just supports that and what we're trying to do. That we have the ability to flex a team out for a month and get the licensing that we need instantaneously. And then again, if we need to collapse things down, collapse the team down smaller, we have the ability to do that within the type of licensing structure that they offer. So that I think that's also an important piece aside from just the software, is the way that they manage licenses. It really does support.
And that's always been, right? That's like, even in 2006, I told some of the people who work here before, like in 2006, I was launching a studio in the Middle East, and they were so supportive with a small little studio, helping me out when I needed to expand licenses for just one project, and then just collapse with very little financial, impact. It's crucial. We rely on them.
And we got a question now on any thoughts on how real-time technology is affecting the pipeline of the future.
For sure. Obviously, with I would say probably the biggest thing. Well, before I say this, let me step back. I mean, with Unity and Unreal, both of these companies have been pushing so hard on game real-time rendering technology, but now really again putting an emphasis on film and TV. I mean, this has been something for the last 5+ years that I myself have been looking at and saying, like, how do we start to integrate that into a VFX pipeline? In every scenario where technology lives right now, it may not be the right solution, but in a lot of scenarios, it is a solution that would work very, very well for the way that we work with or the type of work that we're doing. Now with the whole COVID thing and Mandalorian and all these other big shows that have gone and started really pushing the envelope with virtual productions, LED stages, that those tools become even more relevant. And that I can speak more to the virtual production thing, but it's obviously become such a hot topic right now with production just not productions under restrictions that make shooting very, very difficult. And with this type of virtual production, real-time rendering is key. So that is something. Nice Shoes, we do have a experiential department. So we work very closely with them, and they're Unreal artists, to continue moving forward with virtual production and with integrating real-time rendering into our CG pipeline as well as a whole.
And it's a good question about what we're doing to keep team morale up while apart. You touched on it a bit, Joyce, but I know there's also a dedicated effort to do Tuesday tutorials.
Well, that's sort of something that we another thing that I've done that in other studios. We talked about it a little bit, and we talked Well, look, obviously Dave and I talk a lot, but we also really hear our crew. But we listen. We also really listen. And, we brought this up at a meeting with we said, what are things that you would like to see from us, or for the team? What would help make this like a better studio? It's not just our decisions. We listen. And this is one of the, of a few things that our crew brought up and said, I'd really like to, learn more about the different things that we don't know about, and so we each week sit down and we think about like what we're experts in, or what we have, great knowledge in, and how that could be helpful for the whole team.
Yeah, that's one of those pieces that I think is probably a lot of people think about is, when you're working in a, physical studio environment, there is a level of collaboration with the person sitting next to you, in terms of,
Mentoring.
getting expertise from them, and, getting tips and tricks from them. And yes, you can lose sight of that when you're working remotely. So these, we Tuesday tutorials, we call it, this is something that we do every week, basically to enable like an open platform for us to be able to share that knowledge with our team and have them share knowledge with us, and just training everybody on tips and tricks that we have, as a team. We also do, we do happy hours very often, as a means of kind of, getting that personal touch, where it's putting work aside and being able to sit down and have a drink with everybody and talk personally. For me, that, again, back to like the whole break room banter, that's a huge piece, is that connection you have with people really, is a huge benefit for the team as a whole. When they have that, when there's a level of trust and that camaraderie, and I think having like these, even if it's virtual, having these social events where we can talk personally about our lives, and what we're into, and what we did this weekend, I think really helps to build morale and build collaboration, and good communication connection.
And no one's looking at their watch to see if they have to catch a train.
Yeah.
And the drinks are less expensive.
For sure.
Only for having getting on the subway drunk.
So it looks like we got time for another 1 to 2. So I'm going to combine a couple that are similar. There's a question about what our advice is for junior artists and producers to get an opportunity at a studio like Break+Enter. And then there's also one about what advice would be offered for anyone who's looking to start up their own studio.
Good question.
The first one, we could like use it, like we had a person, a student who was looking to break and enter, and it just seems, I don't know, I told you I can't be scripted. So this is a person who normally really wouldn't. It would have been very difficult for this person to have an opportunity to get into our industry, just because of the level of skills that she was really at a very entry level. And when COVID first happened, we were really kind of not able to really make an offer for anything for her. And as it hit, we understood that she's now at home with her parents, and so the cost of supporting herself in the city, she lives rather far away. She's upstate, and we were able to have her come in and do very rotoscoping for us on a film. And that opportunity, it's just for someone who's not living in Manhattan, right, with family, that it really limits a person who's not location bounds and economically secure. So for someone like this, it was actually the perfect opportunity to develop her skills, and we're mentoring her, and hopefully we'll have her on a lot more shows, and she's a future rock star, in our opinion, and we're all clamoring, rooting for her to really make it.
One thing I will say to just tie that back to the whole remote kind of cloud infrastructure thing is, and again, every city and company looks different, but one of the things that we're always having to manage and be very conscious of, especially in New York, where real estate is expensive, spaces are small, is we have to be conscious of kind of the value of every seat. which makes it hard at times. It makes it hard when we know that we're nearly at capacity, and we know we have certain demands. Sometimes it does make it hard for us to bring in people that have a little less experience. Us being able to have the flexibility where we're not bound to a physical seat anymore, it gives us the opportunity now to give people a shot, right? Like we're not taking away a senior seat anymore. We can give a seat to anybody at any time and give people an opportunity to prove themselves. And Joyce and I are both very about that. It's
Absolutely.
people, there's so many diamonds in the rough, and we want to be able to find them and give them an opportunity to prove themselves to us, and give them opportunities to get into the industry. And again, having the flexibility and not the bounds of physical seats anymore gives us the opportunity to be able to do that without risking a project or anything like that, or a budget.
Yeah, it's kind of leveled the playing field when it comes to people coming in as an entry-level person, and that's great.
Yeah.
I think we do need to wrap up now. We're getting the signal to close it out. But if you had to give somebody in 10 seconds advice on starting a studio, what would you say, Joyce?
You've got to stay the course no matter what challenges get thrown your way, and be adaptable. Be adaptable. That's your number one. Yeah.
Cloud is all I would say. I'm so sorry to all my business owner friends, but I think brick and mortar in our industry is dead. And I mean, just from a cost perspective, I would be heavily looking at and investing in cloud development.
Yeah, which is adaptability. At the end of the day, you need, the word is pivot. The truth is, you've always got to be able to be flexible, change on a dime and move, and courageous.
Well, thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Dave. And thank you, everybody who joined us today. You can find us at breakenter.io and niceshoes.com. And hit us up if you have any more questions. Thanks you.
All.
Bye.